Surveillance is no longer just on our phones and our computers. They're moving into our cars and watching us from our streets. And there's a new technology that's being developed right now that can actually read people's emotions. Across Europe, cameras in new cars are required to watch people. License plate cameras are tracking where people go, and street lights are becoming surveillance towers. And have you noticed with every new system, there comes the same promise: safety, security, and convenience. But how much of your privacy are you willing to give up? How much of your control are you willing to hand over? Or are we watching the beast system shape right before our very eyes? Beginning July 7th, 2026, all newly registered passenger cars and vans in the European Union must include an advanced driver distraction warning system. So, in simple terms, there will be a camera inside the vehicle watching the driver's eye and head movements. If the system determines that the driver has been looking at a phone, the dashboard, or somewhere other than the road for too long, it will issue a warning through a light, a sound, or possibly a vibration. The purpose, apparently, is to prevent accidents and keep drivers focused on the road. But this also means that a camera powered by sensors and computer software will now be watching the person behind the wheel as a standard feature in all new European vehicles. So, of course, this raises an important privacy question. Once cameras and artificial intelligence monitoring become standard inside our cars, where could this technology eventually lead? Could the information someday be shared, connected to other systems, or perhaps used for purposes beyond just driver safety? The concern is not only what this technology is being used for today, it is the growing pattern of cameras, sensors, and AI being placed in nearly every area of everyday life now, including our cars. Now, at first glance, this may sound like nothing more than another safety feature. But when we place this report beside the next one, a much larger pattern begins to emerge. Let's take a look at this report from Prophecy Newswatch. It lists the 7 ways that your next car could control more than just the road. Number 1, your car is watching you. For most of automotive history, the only person watching your driving was the passenger sitting beside you. Today, many new vehicles include inward-facing cameras that monitor your eye movement, blinking, head position, and signs of distraction or fatigue. Cadillac's Super Cruise, Ford's Blue Cruise, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Volvo, and Subaru all employ various forms of driver monitoring technology. So, of course, we're not just talking about the EU, you guys. We're talking about cars that are sold in the United States. But the report goes on to say, yet many Subaru owners say that the latest eyesight system can feel overly sensitive, issuing warnings after momentary glances to adjust a radio or check navigation, or even admire the scenery. What one driver sees as a harmless glance, the computer may interpret as a dangerous distraction. The issue isn't simply that the vehicle is watching. It's that every new camera and sensor creates another stream of highly personal data. So the question isn't whether your car can watch you. It's who owns what it sees. Number 2, your car knows more about you than you think. Modern vehicles remember far more than drivers realize. Navigation systems store destinations. GPS logs travel routes. Bluetooth identifies the phones that regularly ride in the vehicle. Connected apps remember favorite locations and travel habits. Over time, your car can quietly assemble an incredibly detailed picture of your life. It knows where you work, where you worship, where your children go to school, where you receive medical treatment, even your favorite restaurants and vacation destinations. And this isn't just merely theoretical. General Motors faced widespread criticism after reports that driving data collected through its OnStar Smart Driver program had been shared with data brokers whose information was used in insurance risk assessments. GM later announced changes to the program following the controversy. Number 3, your driving is becoming becoming a digital score. Insurance companies are increasingly measuring how we drive. Programs such as Progressive Snapshot, State Farm Drive, Safe and Save, and Allstate DriveWise rewards drivers willing to share information about acceleration, braking, speed, mileage, and driving habits. Participation is generally voluntary, and many safe drivers appreciate the discounts. But these programs also reveal a larger trend. Driving behavior is becoming measurable, searchable, and valuable. Today, those scores primarily affect insurance premiums. Number 4, you may own the car, but you do not control it. Buying a car once meant owning everything it contained. Increasingly, software has changed that relationship. BMW has experimented with subscription services for features such as heated seats in certain markets. Mercedes offers software upgrades that unlock additional performance. Tesla routinely adds or changes vehicle capabilities through over-the-air software updates. Imagine explaining to your grandfather that after buying a $70,000 car, you might still pay a monthly fee to activate equipment already installed inside of it. Number 5, artificial intelligence is starting to make driving decisions. Automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assistance, adaptive cruise control, emergency steering, Subaru's emergency stop assist. These innovations have undoubtedly prevented accidents and saved lives. Yet they also represent something unprecedented. For the first time in automotive history, vehicles are beginning to make decisions that once belonged exclusively to you, the driver. Today's systems intervene primarily during emergencies or when they believe a driver is incapacitated. In those circumstances, a technology can be a remarkable safeguard. But if these trends continue, one can imagine future debates over where assistance ends and authority begins. Number 6. Safety today, control tomorrow. History shows that many surveillance technologies begin with worthy objectives. Airport screening followed attacks from other groups. Traffic cameras sought to improve intersection safety. License plate readers helped recover stolen vehicles. Driver monitoring systems aim to reduce distracted and impaired driving. Each innovation addresses a legitimate concern. Congress also directed the Department of Transportation through the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to establish standards for advanced impaired driving prevention technology in future vehicles. The details continue to evolve, but the broader conversation illustrates how technology is becoming increasingly central to automotive safety. Meanwhile, transportation policy is changing elsewhere. London has congestion pricing. New York has implemented congestion pricing in parts of Manhattan. Oregon has experimented with mileage-based road use programs. Imagine a future where technology makes increasingly personalized transportation policies technically possible. Whether society embraces or rejects those possibilities will ultimately depend on values citizens choose to protect. And number 7, the automobile is quietly redefining freedom. In 1975, a car was primarily steel, rubber, gasoline, and mechanical parts. Today, it is increasingly a connected computer on wheels. It communicates with smartphones, cloud services, navigation providers, changing networks, insurers, emergency responders, and software platforms. It receives updates over the internet. It continuously generates data, and in some cases, it can even intervene when it believes that something has gone wrong. Now, of course, none of these innovations genuinely improve safety and convenience, but together they represent a profound shift in the relationship between people and the machines they drive. Students of Bible prophecy have long recognized that Scripture describes a future in which unprecedented systems of economic and societal coordination become possible. The Bible does not identify the technologies involved, but each passing year reminds us how quickly ideas once confined to science fiction have become everyday reality. Now let's move along to another article written by Prophecy News Watch. The headline reads, "When every streetlight becomes a surveillance tower." For years, Americans were told that the greatest privacy battles would happen online. The debate centered around social media, smartphones, and internet tracking. Few imagined that one of the most controversial surveillance technologies would instead appear quietly on neighborhood streets, mounted atop poles at busy intersections and neighborhood entrances. The growing controversy surrounding flock safety cameras illustrates that Americans are becoming increasingly uneasy with the rapid expansion of surveillance technologies. The company's recent decision to cancel its experimental human distress detection audio feature following overwhelming public backlash demonstrates something important. There are still limits to what many citizens are willing to accept in the name of public safety.
Flock announced it would discontinue its pilot program that used always listening microphones designed to detect sounds such as screaming or other signs of potential distress. According to the company, the feature had only been tested with a limited number of customers and never received a broad rollout. Civil liberties advocates nevertheless view the technology as crossing a dangerous line. So the microphones may be gone for now, but the surveillance infrastructure remains, as license plate readers can already document where vehicles travel, how frequently they visit particular locations, and reconstruct travel histories. Artificial intelligence increasingly allows computers to identify unusual movement, recognize patterns, search enormous databases in seconds, and correlate information gathered from multiple sources. Today's system may identify a license plate. Tomorrow's could identify every vehicle regularly parked outside a church, every attendee at a political rally, or every person who visits particular organizations on a reoccurring basis.
So far, we've been talking about technology that can track where you go, monitor your driving, but this next story takes surveillance to an entirely different level. Because what happens when surveillance isn't satisfied with just tracking and monitoring you, but begins to determine what you're thinking and feeling? Your facial expressions, the tone of your voice, your physical reactions, that can now be analyzed by artificial intelligence in order to identify a person's emotional state. This is being called emotional surveillance.
Joe Hawkins of Prophecy Recon wrote a very interesting article entitled The Rise of Emotional Surveillance. And I'll make sure to leave details for you guys so that you can go visit him on his website, and he has his own YouTube channel. And he also is an author, and I'll go ahead and leave a link to his books. But he goes on to say that the next frontier in biometric technology may not be fingerprints, facial scans, or iris recognition, but human emotion itself. Researchers and technology companies are increasingly exploring emotion as a trust signal, using artificial intelligence to analyze facial expressions, vocal patterns, behavioral cues, and psychological responses to determine whether a person appears trustworthy, anxious, deceptive, or cooperative. The emerging concept suggests that future security systems, financial systems, workplaces, and digital platforms may evaluate not only who a person is, but also how they feel and whether their emotional state aligns with expectations. Advocates argue that emotional biometrics could improve fraud detection, strengthen identity verification, and create more personalized digital experiences. However, critics warn that such systems introduce a profound privacy concern and raise difficult questions about bias, accuracy, and consent. Researchers have long noted that emotional recognition technologies struggle to reliably interpret human emotions across different cultures, situations, and individuals. At the same time, advances in artificial intelligence continue pushing these technologies into commercial and governmental applications, expanding the collection of behavioral and psychological data for beyond traditional biometrics. The steady movement from fingerprints to facial recognition, and now from identity to emotion itself, illustrates how rapidly technology is advancing towards deeper forms of human analysis and surveillance. Scripture teaches that God alone truly knows the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Yet modern systems increasingly seek to quantify trust, measure emotions, and assign value to human behavior through algorithms. As artificial intelligence attempts to peer beneath the surface of human expression, believers are watching a world that appears increasingly willing to surrender not only its identities, but even its emotions to digital systems of observation and control.
Now, I'm not saying that every camera, every sensor, or every safety feature is part of the beast system. But as what I will say is that we need to pay close attention in the direction that this new technology is moving. Because in the book of Revelation, it describes a system that has unprecedented control over people's lives. And so this system isn't just going to appear out of nowhere. It needs a foundation. So I believe that that foundation is being shaped right now. In fact, I think that they have everything that they need in order to implement the beast system. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments. Also, when you have a free moment, come and visit us on our new website at thedacreport.com. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Until next time, God bless and stay safe.